So the market continues to chop and be boring. However, there are a few events coming up over the next couple of weeks which could bring some much needed and wanted volatility to Bitcoin and the wider market. So in this video, we'll go over some of the key charts as well as the altcoins for some potential trading opportunities, and of course the news which is coming up over the next few weeks. So if you do enjoy our content, please do like and consider subscribing. We do appreciate it and it does help us out massively. So let's take a look at what's coming up. The big one that's coming up over the next couple of days is the deadline for the ruling on ARK's application for a Bitcoin ETF. Now, not too excited about this one because I personally believe that the first Bitcoin ETF that gets approved, if one is, will be the BlackRock one. So I don't hold out much hope for this. It's whether or not the market reacts too much to it. And I mean, there is a chance that it could get approved. I just think it's unlikely. And so if it does get denied or delayed, then we'll see what the market does to that. But as I say, it's coming up in the next couple of days, could even be today, which is probably quite likely considering I can't, I'd be surprised if this news came out on the 13th, which would be a Sunday. So I think it's more likely it comes out today. But either way, it all depends on how the market reacts to it, if it does at all. Going into next week, because I'm not here next week and therefore there will be no YouTube videos. However, I don't think I'm missing much. As you can see, this is next week. There is pretty much nothing going on next week in terms of major events. You've got the FOMC meeting, minutes from the July meeting, but everyone knows what happened in that meeting. So the minutes aren't really going to bring up anything interesting, I don't think, in my opinion. Then you got the usual initial jobless claims on Thursday and nothing on Friday. So again, pretty quiet week in terms of fundamentals. So don't see much happening there. And then finally, in another couple of weeks towards the end of August, we have got Jackson Hole. So if you're not familiar, Jackson Hole is an annual meeting with, as you can see from the article, lots of bigwigs in the financial sector, so prominent central bankers, finance ministers, academics, and financial market participants, including, of course, the head of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. So last year, his speech had a bit of an impact on the market, so that was around August the 25th. If we take a quick look at the market on the daytime, we find the 25th of August, 2022, which will be around here. As you can see, his remarks was what sent us down from around 21.7-ish down to that sort of 19.5k, and then we continue to trend downwards from there. So had quite a big impact. Obviously, we're talking a lot about inflation. A lot has changed in the past 12 months. So we'll see if his words have any effect on the market over the next couple of weeks. That's the last week of August. So again, we'll cover it in a little bit more detail the week after next when I'm back, and that is actually in the current week. But as you can see, not really much going on. Hopefully something happens over the next week or so and brings some volatility, because it is quite boring. So if we get into the charts, then not really much point in going over the higher time frame stuff because nothing's really moved since Monday or even last week, to be honest. BTC, as you can see, stuck in this range between 30k and 29.1. Had two rejections off 30k on Tuesday, Wednesday, and slowly back down to this important 29.3 monthly level, which we're just sort of sat on. If we just quickly flick to the monthly, as you can see, very key level of support and resistance. So this monthly candle trying to decide whether it's going to hold it as support or it's going to flip it to resistance. On the weekly, as I say, not really much to get from, apart from, as I've said before, the pattern that we've had all this year is impulse, slow grind down into support, impulse, slow grind down, support, impulse. Are we now having that slow grind down into a higher low in and around sort of 26, 27k maybe, which on the daily time frame, as we can see, 28k, really big level of potential support if and when we get down there. So that's what I'm thinking, but of course we need to lose this 29.1k level of support. Alternatively, if we do bounce from here and go for a run, we need to clear 30k, and that opens the door for 31.7, that weekly level there. If we get above that, then that really does open the door to 34k. But as I say, one step at a time. It feels like we need some sort of catalyst to launch us one direction or the other, and at the moment there isn't many of those catalysts about. If we take a look at Ethereum, very similar picture, just caught between a range of between 1888 and 1827. Held this level quite nicely, especially on Monday, big wick but no real momentum following that. As you can see, it just sort of slowly grinded down. When you look at the opens and closes, they're very, very close together. There's wicks either side, just catching people out either way, but no real price movement. If we take a look at the S&P, this is looking a little bearish in the short term. If we go to higher time frame monthly, we've had this rejection from 4.6, which was this swing high from March, April of last year. So potentially, if you look at the higher time frames, potentially coming down to this monthly support of 4327. So broke over the top, potential coming back down to support into this higher low and going again. If we take a look at the weekly, again, nice level of support on the weekly time frame as well. So going on to the daily, we had this level as well. Ooh, up at, what's this, 4493. You can see we held it for a nice level there, held it for a little while, and then broke below it, and especially yesterday, big wick to the upside, but eventually closed in red, and a little potential bearish retest there today. So are we going to go and test these beginnings of the legs of the move here at 4412 and then 4370 before finally getting down to that 4327 area? Maybe fill this little gap here. Sort of trick people, make them think that we're losing this support, fill this gap at about 4,300 and then go again potentially. Now, can Bitcoin survive, or not necessarily survive, but can Bitcoin withstand that sort of drawdown in the S&P? What would that take us down to? That would be about a 3.5%, 4% drop, which from the top would be a total pullback of about 7%. Pretty normal, healthy correction in the stock market, anywhere between sort of 5 and 10%. So that is likely. Now, we feel like we've decoupled quite a lot. If we take a look at the weekly and then compare that to the Bitcoin weekly, not that similar anymore. We don't seem to be following the S&P that closely. However, if we do have quite a big pullback, will Bitcoin be affected? We'll have to wait and see. Let's get into the altcoins then. Again, not really much has happened since Monday. You can see ADA, what you'll find across most of the alts is that they're just chilling in a range, heading towards, grinding slowly down to their daily range lows. ADA, this is a trade we entered on the Learning Crypto Premium Earn While You Learn. So as you can see, clear range, daily range high at 30 cents, daily range low at 26 cents, mid-range around 28. We entered the trade just shy of the daily range high at 30 cents. Basically, the story behind that is we saw this wick here on Wednesday morning. So we jumped in when price was at around 29.8. Obviously not knowing whether it was going to come up and retest again, but as you can see it did, rejected. So not quite the perfect entry, but good enough. So if this does start trending down, then happy days, nice little trade. We're only 1% away from the perfect entry, as you can see, which was good enough for me. Obviously, invalidation is a daily close back above the daily range high. So we're hoping that Bitcoin breaks down to 28k, and that will send ADA down to its daily range lows at 26 cents. AVAX, as you can see, just chilling between the daily mid-range and daily range low at $12. So a little bit more downside to come, hopefully. BNB is the same, chopping around that mid-range. Hopefully, with BTC coming down, it will eventually come down to those daily range lows at $231. DOT the same, hopefully break down to $4.71, the daily range low. Matic had a nice little bearish retest up here at 70 cents, which I believe I mentioned as a potential trade opportunity on Monday and Friday. Didn't jump in this on the Earn While You Learn purely because it was CPI day and we already had 2 trades open, so didn't want to add any more risk, but that was a nice little entry. Invalidation would simply be a daily close back above if you jumped into that. But again, looking for this to come back down, retest 65 cents daily level, maybe break down all the way to 58 cents weekly level. NIA, almost at that daily range low again at $1.31. As I've said a number of times, this daily range low has been tested lots and lots of times, so don't really have much faith in it having another big bounce. What I'd like to see is actually a breakdown to this weekly range low at $1.25, take out all this liquidity and get people quite bearish and then have a big bounce off that weekly level. ZIL, another one, just slowly grinded down to its daily range low at 0.018. And then finally, VeChain, we also entered this trade on the Earn While You Learn as well. So this was the one pair that had broke down below its range low and looked like it had a bearish retest here on the Monday. But as you can see, it has started to break above. It's the only altcoin that actually looks like it's having a bit of an uptrend on the 4-hour time frame. So our initial invalidation was going to be a daily close back above. However, with everything still looking like it's grinding downwards, gone on the 4 hour, seen this big level of resistance here or previous support, now resistance at 0.018-ish. So a 4 hour close above that and we'll cut the trade. But if we just quickly flick through all the other pairs on the 4 hour time frame, you see most things are in a downtrend. As you can see, AVAX definitely in a big downtrend there. BNB, big downtrend on the 4 hour. DOT was and sort of flattening out now. Matic again sort of flattening out. Near definitely in a downtrend there on the 4 hour, and of course ZIL still trending downwards as well. So that's why I'm giving this the benefit of the doubt, holding on to it. If it does break above and Bitcoin starts turning around, then fair enough, we'll jump out early. Same with ADA. If we get that daily close back above the daily range high of 30 cents, we'll jump out early. But it certainly looks as though things are slowly breaking down, slowly grinding down. And as I've said before, if BTC does come down and break 29.1, then we should get down to 28k, and then all of these daily range lows on altcoins should be tested, and then we might get some decent trading opportunities. But at the moment, I'm afraid from a swing trade perspective, it is quite boring. Fairly risky entries as well. We only entered ADA because it was at that daily range high. Everything else is just in and around mid-range or range quarters, which aren't the best R&R for trade entries. So that's pretty much it from me. As I say, keep your eyes on that ETF decision. Not much going on in the stock market or the traditional markets next week, and then the following week we've got Jackson Hole, which again I will cover when I'm back that following week. So have a good weekend, have a good week next week. I look forward to being back with you on Monday the 21st, and yeah, I'll see you then.